These are the ultimate animals. With over 5,000 different kinds worldwide, frogs are one of the most varied species on Earth.
They occupy environments ranging from the Arctic Circle all the way down to the equator. And some of them are completely terrestrial, some of them are completely aquatic. They're on the mountains, they're in valleys, they kind of do it all.
From the largest, the Goliath frog, which can weigh as much as a newborn baby, to one of the weirdest, the Suriname toad, which gives birth through holes in her back. Frogs really do run the gamut. And to prove it, here are some of the world's most fascinating frogs. Starting with the northern leopard frog. If he looks familiar, it's because you may have taken a high school science class together.
Leopard frogs were the species that most people dissected because that was the species that people could get easily. So that led, especially the northern leopard frog, to become kind of the amphibian lab rat.
So what else can we possibly learn from such a well-studied frog? In late 2014, scientists revealed the discovery of an entirely new species of leopard frog, a close cousin to the northern. Most surprisingly, this new frog wasn't discovered in the jungles of Costa Rica, but somewhere much less exotic.
This new species of frog was found on Staten Island in New York. And from the site where it was found, you can see the skyline of Manhattan. That doesn't happen too often.
It's only the second new species to be found on the continental U.S. in 30 years. Scientists are calling it the Atlantic Coast leopard frog.
So even in unlikely places, we're still finding new species.
Another fascinating amphibian is the wood frog. It can do something that humans have only dreamed of. From Paris Hilton to Larry King, and even Muhammad Ali. These are just some of the people who have dreamed of a day in which they can cheat death by cryogenically freezing their bodies for the future. For now, it remains science fiction. That is, unless you're a wood frog.
Probably one of the most remarkable frog species out there is the wood frog. It's the only amphibian that lives in the Arctic environment. Wood frogs are able to go into what is quite literally suspended animation.
To survive the deep chill of winter, wood frogs burrow under the leaf litter and then let themselves freeze.
These animals are literally able to shut down their life functions for months at a time. They pump most of the water inside their bodies into kind of interstitial spaces in their body, like lymph nodes, and then load their cells, the interior of their cells, up with glucose, which can act as antifreeze.
Doing this, some frogs can maintain a temperature of just under 5 degrees Fahrenheit. And how cold is that?
Not that I recommend this, but if you dropped it on the ground, it would shatter into a million pieces, like an ice cube.
And wood frogs can stay frozen solid like this for up to 9 months.
Their heart doesn't beat, the nerves aren't firing, nothing happens for months. And then if you warm it up gently, it kind of stretches itself out and it can hop away. That's astounding for any animal to be able to do that. Maybe not surprisingly, NASA is kind of interested in this because they'd like to, you know, bottle us up, suspend our animation and send us to Mars or something.
Then there's a frog that only looks like a Martian, and it's got nothing to hide, literally. It's the glass frog. This is an amphibian that wears its heart on its sleeve, and also its liver and kidneys. But aside from telling us what the frog had for lunch, This see-through skin may help it survive.
Not only is their skin translucent, but their organs can be translucent. And that species has green bones. And so when they're up in the trees, one of the ways that they're able to match their background is by letting the background pass through their body.
So a tree snake, looking up for its next meal, might only see another green leaf. You don't need see-through skin to be an ultimate frog. The American bullfrog is in the family called true frogs.
Bullfrogs are the largest frog that lives in North America. They can get to be over a pound or so, and they're famous for being able to jump a really, really long distance.
But how does the American bullfrog stack up against our best human long jumpers? In 1991, Mike Powell of the United States set the men's world record long jump by leaping just over 29 feet. That's nearly 5 times the length of Powell's own body. Pretty good. But is it bullfrog good? Bullfrogs have been recorded jumping over 10 times the length of their bodies. So, if a bullfrog was as tall as Mike Powell, it could jump nearly 60 feet, or 1.5 school buses, double Powell's record-setting jump. Like slimy little snowflakes, no two frogs are exactly alike, but all frogs do have to eat. Some are hungrier than others. But frogs don't have big teeth to chew their food into bite-sized chunks, so they have to swallow their prey whole. And here's how they do it. They use their eyeballs.
A frog has nice big eyes that sit up in that Kermit kind of way, and those eyes can move up and down into their sockets.
At the bottom of each eye socket is a thin muscle, like a hammock for the eyeball. It's strong enough to keep the eyes from falling out, but flexible enough to stretch into the mouth cavity.
If you watch a frog feed, they pull their eyes down, and by pushing their eyes down, that fills up their mouth cavity and pushes the food back into their throat.
Speaking of amazing eyes, this guy may have the brightest eyes of any frog on the planet. With a bright green body, neon orange feet, and blood red eyes, the red-eyed tree frog may seem like a showboater. But it's actually a master of camouflage.
They can kind of tuck their limbs in and put these membranes over their eyes that have this camouflage pattern on them. And if you put them on the right background, they can just completely disappear.
But for all tree frogs, the best strategy for escaping death is by hanging out in hard-to-reach places. And whether it's the underside of a leaf or the clear glass of an aquarium, tree frogs do have a knack for sticking around. The way they do it may have real-world implications for people. It all begins with some of the most remarkable feat in the animal kingdom. Tree frogs secrete special mucus from glands in their toe pads that can regenerate its adhesion with each step. So if the tree frog feels itself slipping, just tapping its foot a few times actually makes the stick stronger. But if you tried to do that with a piece of tape, dust would quickly build up on the surface, and the tape would lose its adhesion. So why don't tree frogs have the same problem? Only recently, researchers discovered that each time the tree frog takes a step, new mucus is secreted, while the old mucus carries away dirt and debris through microscopic channels in the frog's toe pads. The frog's feet clean themselves as they walk. Scientists at the University of Glasgow believe these self-cleaning sticky feet could provide a design for everything from self-cleaning medical bandages to non-slip tires. So soon, the streets might be a little safer thanks to a tiny little tree frog. Unlike the red-eyed tree frog, this frog prides itself on laying low. It's the Vietnamese mossy frog, While it's actually another kind of tree frog, it spends most of its time in the water, or using its textured skin to look like the moss it's named after.
They're really good at blending into their background where they live. But it has another defense as well, and kind of a strange one. When it's threatened, it kind of rolls up into a ball. And I think it's the only frog that's known to do something like that.
When its camo fails, this frog rolls up and plays dead, like an amphibious armadillo mixed with a mossy possum. But our final frog isn't the playing dead kind. Setting itself apart from any other amphibian on our list, some of them have the potential to kill 2 full-grown elephants with little more than a touch. These are the poison dart frogs of Central and South America.
So dart frogs get their name from a practice of using the toxin in their skin to poison tips of arrows that were used by indigenous folks to hunt.
One species, the golden dart, may just be the most poisonous animal alive. It's estimated that just 1 gram of its toxin could kill nearly 7,500 humans. But where does the dart frog's toxin come from in the first place?
The interesting thing is that the frogs don't manufacture the toxin. They eat ants that have the toxin in them, and they're able to then sequester it in their skin glands.
From frogs that save lives to those that kill.
There are no boring frogs.